Hi, my name is Ilyas and welcome back for daily Formula News. Qualifying a low-key 6 for Azerbaijan GP, Max Verstappen was unable to join in the fight for victory on Sunday, but the championship leader displayed none of the anger and frustration one might have expected, as his lead shrank a little more, having gone without a win since June's Spanish GP. Plenty has been talking about the derailment of Red Bull championship aspirations, as McLaren has become a relentless force to close in and overtake the Milton Keynes-based squad in the Constructors' Championship. While working has improved the McLaren MCL38 seemingly while Red Bull development for path Rb20 has seen the reigning world champions tempted by the real-world behavior of their car, as team boss Christian Horner has spoken about disconnect in the data between the team wind tunnel figures and what is happening to the car on the track. It's a carbon copy of what was on the Mercedes through 22 and 2023. The development path of the car yields a result according to every possible simulation available, only for the car to behave completely different on spot on the track. When a team is no longer able to trace its data, it can lead to panic. How can issue be rectified when there isn't a clear picture as to what is causing the correlation issue, especially when you can't start afresh in the middle of the season? It's led to a series of races for Red Bull that would be unfathomable to think about last year's, or even earlier this season, as Verstappen has become an also an even podium, have become scarce the lack of space not helped by the Rb20, suddenly showing through its tires and leaving Verstappen and Sergio Perez powerless to stop McLaren from pressing Red Bull to top of 20-point lead in the standing. Picking at Monza, where his team took a drubbing to finish 6 and 8 on genuine pace, Horner explained there is a balance issue with the car that's allowing the driver to commit to corner entry. So as soon as you count down the rear, you do that compromising the front, so then you end up with an under-seater, and then you cool your tire that way. So I think what we really need to design the map, or if you look at the McLaren, it's almost like an evolution of last year's car. It's much simpler than ours. Perhaps we've gone a little too complex and perhaps we need to simplify those things. Turning toward experimenting with things. A previous specification, for example, was brought in a bid to establish a known baseline, but this didn't work to improve things. Either the cars may have handled a little more pleasantly, but it was too slow as Max Verstappen came home over 20 seconds down on Lando Norris, indicating just how difficult current regulation appeared to be for the teams to develop. For not only Red Bull are scratching their heads, Mercedes showing up with a no specification for in Azerbaijan to try figuring out its own balance issue, where Red Bull was the only team from to the top 4 to show up with an update, a direct repair to struggle the team on route through Zandvoort and Monza. Of course, one small does not summer make. The fact that Red Bull did have a race win potential with their usually slower number. Two driver isn't sign that the RB is suddenly going back winning races with ease when Verstappen does make such set of error. After all, Verstappen still failed to unlock the potential within the car, showcasing just how easy it is to do without a narrow operating window. But the seeds have been some of more positive ending to the season, as Verstappen beats to win the title with a little more authority as the recent races have suggested it might be done in wavering fashion. There's no doubt the Rb20, like the MCL38, is jaw-dropping kick F1 car. The difference being that McLaren development whether that be route better correlation, a more simplistic approach that advantage of extra hours of CFD and wind tunnel testing, or playing good old-fashioned fortune has resulted in stronger and more consistent performance. Red Bull own development path led them astray, creating a monster with the only flash of its outright potential shining through an occasion such as its qualifying at SPA Francorchamps, for example. But the potential of the car is still there to be exploited. At Baku hinted that the team has finally figured out how to start doing just that. Monza's shocking display seemingly giving the team the kick-up to rear is needed to start suspending. Qualifying was less tranquil, with Perez leading the charge in 4th place, while Verstappen could only manage 6 more than half second from the pole time set by Leclerc. For whatever reason, Red Bull didn't seem to have been able to go with the pace increase through practice and into qualifying. The race unfolded with Verstappen unable to kick pace to the late peak, falling further and further back. Worse, his strategy was seriously compromised after his pit stop, as he came up with the hand one stopping Alex Albon and Lando Norris, and ended up getting cooped up behind his championship rival. Every lap that passed for Verstappen behind the duo widened the window of opportunity for Norris to close the gap later in the race, as his potential adventure shrank and his duty came to pace late in the race, as Verstappen was released in and passed by Norris as the McLaren enjoyed its fresh medium tires. On paper then, the race should have seen Verstappen respond with a type of fury and frustration that was evident in Hungary as circumstance of his new reality set in. But the Dutch driver was surprisingly calm as he spoke to media afterward. Exploring his comment, his demeanor suggests that he had been charged in the lever of confidence with Red Bull despite the struggles of the race. Verstappen was surprisingly chirpy as he took care of his post-race media duties, revealing that setup change he had gambled on after the third practice had backfired. There had been suggestion elsewhere that Verstappen held his tongue as a result of his criticism of the car on Saturday, being met negatively in the Red Bull camp, but there is no denying that Verstappen was not all the doom and gloom, as he gave his version of events after the race. In a bid to make the car better to drive, he had opted for a tweak to his setup that proved to take the car in the wrong direction, which has released almost immediately in Q1. But with the car parked firm, the moment he left the pit line, there was no rolling back on the chain, remaining home for the rest of the weekend. Verstappen said, "I think we just paid the price with the change that we made into qualifying. That made it just really difficult to drive. The car was jumping around a lot. The wheels were coming off the ground in the low speed corner, so we don't have a contact path with tarmac and it's very difficult. We tried to make it better, but we made it worse." But there was no anger on display, none of aggravation of recent weeks, and he tries to emphasize Red Bull that the development direction had gone wrong, having been no longer able to overcome the issue with the cars. Inherent behavior earlier in the summer, it had brought back some of the old Hungary Max, but it wasn't the case on Sunday, despite Lando Norris closing the gap marginally in the championship. Confirming they had been involved in the decision to make the setup change with probed so closely, he was as matter of fact as unsure Verstappen. He said, "I mean, we win and lose as team, we thought it would be good direction to go into, and then in the end, it wasn't." On top of his calm temperament, his positivity regarding the changes made to Rb20 was evident. After all, he can't argue the car was uncompetitive when the other Rb20 was up front fighting for the win. Undoubtedly reassured by seeing Sergio Perez for victory and the podium places for the first time since China, a driver he knows he's got the measure for 9 times out of 10. Verstappen comments indicated that he was much happier with the handling of his car, and that rapid response for Red Bull the increasingly critical position it has found itself in. He said, "I think it was a good step, yeah. The revised floor, the overall behavior is better. Unfortunately, we just made 4 wrong decisions going into qualifying that we paid the price on." While Verstappen's setup experiments suggest the window for the RB20 is still quite small, given his week to the car in the complete opposite direction, he was pursuing Perez's immeasurably better performance in the eye-opener that suggests Red Bull has made a road into understanding the RB20 issue. Horner explained the setup difference between the two cars led to very different feeling for the driver, which could trigger a post-mortem. But Perez had been happier with the balance and feel. More apparently, despite running in the elevated pace up front in the 3-car on convoy, Perez had to show through the tires in the same way as Verstappen. Horner said, "With the Max obviously, we need to look at the variance in setup. He wasn't happy with his car as Chico was, but I think if you take Chico as the baseline here, I think that we have made improvements. We just need to understand the difference and improve further." Max definitely was going through a tires kicker, both on the medium and on the hard tire. So again, we've got to look at the variance in setup between the two cars to understand that. Let me subscribe and share your reaction about Verstappen impact on Red Bull RB20.